Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Unspeakable Bliss, episode number I've lost count. I'm joined here today by the man, the myth, the legend, my bro, my neighbor here in Costa Rica, Mr. Pablo Lucero. Lucero, see?
Lucero. Yep.
Lucero. And we're here today to talk about I have no idea.
Mm.
Uh, we're going to dive into the mystery. But I'll say a few words of introduction of what I know about you, my brother, and then if there's anything you want to add on. You, I believe, have a background as used to be a lawyer, and then you had I actually just recently watched his story where he talked about having this epiphany where he looked around one day in his office and he's like, this doesn't match what's inside me anymore. And it seemed like that was a pivotal choice point for you, from what I understood, where then you have now arrived at living on a mountain in Costa Rica and having been a facilitator, a coach for the past 20 years, supporting people the way I understand it to live their heart's dreams and desires. So, is there anything that you might want to add to that brief intro?
Yeah, the only thing I would add to clarify, I was not a lawyer. I worked in law for 13 years. Yeah.
Got it.
But
Cool.
yeah, accurate story, accurate narrative.
All right.
I like the uncomfortable silence. I could stay here for as
Yeah.
long as we
Yeah.
want.
Is it uncomfortable?
Not for me.
Oh,
For a
okay.
moment, it's like, oh, I want to feel. Do I feel the space, or does it
Uh-huh.
get filled,
Mm.
or do I feel the space?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
This is a good question. I imagine this feeling or filling the space or being uncomfortable in the space. Do you find that to be central to the work that you do with people?
Absolutely. I think it's everything.
Yeah.
I think providing an opportunity for myself and others to feel, or like we say, feel or feel is
Mm-hmm.
it's where the music happens, right? That space between tones and notes. It's the space between, right? The unspoken, unspeakable bliss. That's that space, right?
Yeah, man. My mom, she listens to my podcast. She's like, "You're getting better. You're getting better and better. There's less empty space." That's what she'll tell me. And I'm like, "Mom, it's unspeakable bliss. It's a podcast literally around that which cannot be spoken about."
Right, right.
Mm.
Absolutely.
So maybe that's a good question that's coming to me is like how has the space of um, for me, the way I experience it, this recognition of being one with the all that is, how does that inform your life? How has that informed your life? Like an awakening experience or a recognition of being one with all of reality. And also practically, I'm curious practically too, because I imagine if it does inform who you are, that probably also is, again, something that flows into the work you do with others.
Yeah, there have been moments of that awakening, connection, undisturbed presence. There has
Mhm.
been scattered moments in life. Um, Hard to even put into words about those moments, but definitely those have been the guiding force. They are the guiding force to be present with relationships, to be present with life and death, to be present with people, obviously, and to fine tune the elegant sensing of that, and discern this moment, right? Discern this relationship, discern this conversation, and how do I get to interact with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oscillating between thought and presence and conversation, right? Friction, relating. I don't know if that sounds very poetic. I don't know if that answers the question. But I think it's the sort of spiritual entertainment is there. I like to
Mm-hmm.
entertain, right? And that's all philosophy and poetry, which is cool. Um, and yeah, as far as guiding people, I mean, I really don't guide people. I can hold a space and contain myself in it, which becomes an opportunity for reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where something happens. So that's my way of facilitating and guiding and coaching for as long as I've been doing it. It's how do I hold my space, and what happens when I say nothing? What happens when I drop one word? What happens when I drop that one word, share that one word in the million ways I can share it?
Mm-hmm.
And and
Mm-hmm.
and what gets discovered? And from that feedback, it just continues to either build or unravel, whatever we call it, or we peel the layer or we put another layer on. Um, so it's truly from this space that I've gotten glimpses of in life.
Mm-hmm.
I can't put a name to it, awakening or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, well, that's a sweet space for me. And ultimately, I feel that everybody in some way, shape, or form wants to get a glimpse of that, right? Because that presence for me, that's where the bright for me, the byproduct of that presence is happiness, joy, success,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whatever we want to label it, bliss, contentment.
Yeah. 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 I have, well, you don't know, so I'll share with you. Something that's been coming up for me recently has been that moment when, quote unquote, all eyes are on me. Or, for example, social media, a podcast. I don't know if I share this with you, but I had a background as an actor. And one of the reasons why I chose to be an actor is because it's fun. It's enjoyable. And also the study of philosophy. I'm like, that's where my curiosity just naturally led me. But then there's this thing that I've been coming real close to in the Doonies, the fire ceremony that I invited you to this evening. Uh, this tantric fire ceremony practice where one of the mantras is confronting or being with an archetypal energy in the psyche that's terrifying. And it's right after the cannabis is smoked, so perfect timing. And for me, man, something's been coming back online of not performing for the sake of like putting on a show that's inauthentic and then just being really alive in the creative expression that life wants to do through me, regardless of who's watching. I'm really interested in that. And I've seen my experience of you is is that. I'm like, this he's authentic. He's responding. And so anyway, I'm playing with this energy that I imagine a lot of people that are listening also experience, which is it's not am I the same when no one's looking? Because it's not that I'm looking to be the same all the time, because I'm a ever unfolding process that, yeah, I'm gonna show up differently when I'm sitting here on this podcast with you versus if I'm sitting here meditating. I'm probably not going to be talking to myself. I hope I'm not going to be having the same conversation. Um, so yeah, I'm just curious what your take on that is like how the idea of other people's eyes on you can or on the you, not you exactly, but on someone can alter their authentic expression maybe having something to do with proving something or appear, I got to know what I'm saying because I'm doing this thing and I'm like, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'll go back to the knowing that every particle that is observed changes. Uh, when I watch myself, I change how I see myself. If I go back and hear a talk that I've given, if I look at myself in the mirror, if I look at myself in the screen right now talking, I observe myself and then I change. I change. I think it's a programming from existence. It just is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
My curiosity is how much do I change and why? Right? Am I changing to fit in? Am I changing to create an experience for myself or someone else? Am I changing to change the experience? Am I changing because I feel more or less about myself? Am I changing to appease? And am I changing to get better? I love watching myself train and move and
Mm-hmm.
getting feedback. So I I change when I observe myself so that I can get better, especially when it comes to a movement. If I'm doing a kettlebell swing, um, if I'm getting off of the ground to sprint towards something, and I see myself, I say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
well, now that I see myself, what can I do different based on what I see and based on what I feel of that experience? So I feel that that is a natural happening. I think
Mm-hmm.
what's most important is how consistent we are in the changing. So, um, I change sometimes in the conversations with my family. I change in a conversation with a teacher. So, so there is this sort of morphing and repositioning and act
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for me at least. The
Yeah,
question is
same.
how much do I change, and at what point is it, am I becoming am I going really far away from my essence? And then the question that really lands for me is, well, what is my essence? Well, who am I authentically? Who am I to myself when I'm laying in bed at night? And it's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
who am I to myself? And then can I be that to the world? And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
am I gonna be okay? Are my relationships gonna be okay? So I find that to be healthy. Sometimes I wake up in a bad
Yeah.
mood and it's like, well, I have a choice. I can remain the same, be like, oh fuck it. I'm just gonna be in a bad fucking mood because I'm in a bad fucking mood. And then everything in the house suffers. Or I can be like, you know what? I just observed myself in a bad mood. So can I
Mm-hmm.
change? Can I change? And then it's like, well, why? Well, what do I get from being in a bad mood? Well, I feel whatever I feel. And if I change that, I can respond differently. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well,
Mm-hmm.
now I have a choice. I have a choice. So I feel that that can be healthy. And I feel that there's also an extreme to that change where sometimes I talk to people and I don't know who the fuck they are because they're just they're constantly changing too much
Mm-hmm.
within a conversation. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to catch their essence and who they are. I'm trying to like, where are you? Oh,
What's
okay.
the through line? Yeah, who is this person really? Yeah.
Who are you? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Something that came through just the other day during one of these, just the sound healing. I was laying there and you reminded me of it with what you just said. The words, the greatest sacrifice is what came through that I can offer the world is being my true self. And really for me, it's not actually a sacrifice then. It's like that's just me be a lot giving myself the freedom to be who I really am.
Yeah. You nailed it, bro. Freedom. And
Hmm.
that can only be felt. Um, I think there's a little unapologetic rebellion that it's an initial step,
Uh-huh.
right? When I was in
Yeah.
law, I was contained in a suit, and
Woohoo.
if you put on a three-piece suit and you see yourself, I know I change. Put on a
Hmm.
nice watch, get in a nice car, and drive to a nice office. There's a way of behaving that comes with that. There's a
That's the
quality.
character, right? That's the
There's a
character that you're.
character. Absolutely. And then when you take off the suit and you're at a strip club, I change. It's another person,
Or when the stripper takes off your suit.
right? It's another person. So
Yeah, yeah.
there comes a point where it's that there's, I feel there needs to be a sense of rebellion to rebel against oneself and be like,
Mm.
is that who I am? Is that truly
Hmm.
how do I feel selling out? What does that even feel like? We can throw these words around. Oh, are you being yourself? Or you're your truth? Or you're, it's like we don't even know where that starts because it's a feeling. It's a
Hmm.
feeling. And for me, it was many years of training myself to feel a certain way in a suit and act a certain way and feel a
Hmm.
certain way when I took off that suit and act a certain way. And everything around that character and these characters was all about maintaining these characters.
Hmm.
There's a maintenance with family. Oh, I'm that person. I made it to that
Hmm.
point in society, right? With the relationships, with the girlfriends, and oh, I'm that person. So they match that person, right? So there's that maintenance, right? Oh, there's the friends, and the friends they match that person with the suit or without the suit. And there's the thing that we all do on Friday, happy hour, or Thursday. And it's the
Hmm.
same thing. And then there comes a point where I ask myself, like, is this it? Like, really? Is this it? Is
Yeah,
this it for my
yeah.
the rest of my adult life until I'm ready to retire? Is this it? Is this the copy and paste of the week to week? Everybody's wearing the same fucking color suits, just different
Hmm. Hmm.
variations of not that many colors, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Is this it? Are we all being the same thing, acting the same way, cordially, politically correct, greeting each other the same way, not really giving a fuck who the other person is, right? Not
Hmm.
really care, not really asking how were you doing today?
Hmm.
Oh, how are you doing? Oh yeah, I'm great. How's your weekend? Oh, it was wonderful. No, pause.
Hmm.
How how are you doing? Right? So that sense of rebellion to start to ask myself, well, is this it? Number one, and is this who I am in it? Is this
Hmm.
it? And is this who I am in it? And to truly question that, because that's the point
Hmm.
for me that really pivoted everything. Because the answer was sensorial. The answer was like, no, this is not it. And no, this is
Hmm.
not who I am in it. And then it's like,
Hmm.
oh shit, now I'm scared because I don't know who I am. And I'm at the peak of my legal career, having the things that are nice. And everyone around me is maintained to relate to me in a certain way. And I've trained them and programmed them and myself to relate in a certain way. And now, if I'm not that person, everything that it relates to that character is going to disappear if that person disappears, right? So that to me is the scariest place of cool. That's some good feedback. That's not who I
Hmm.
am. This is not it. And now the question, now the hero's journey begins for me, right?
Hmm.
And ideally for everyone out there, for all of us, ideally, the best and the scariest place to be.
Yeah, yeah, man. I totally resonate. I don't know if I shared with you before, but I was studying accounting uh, sophomore year of college, and I went to a liberal arts school. So fortunately, they had an array of different things that a classical liberal arts school, it's designed so that you have an eclectic education, basically. So there was philosophy and acting on the board, and it was the first time that I actually made a decision for myself. Sophomore year, I was like, okay, I'm either going to drop out and try to be a musician, an artist, even though I didn't wasn't playing any instrument or anything, or I'm going to study something that I actually like. And that would be a good place to put my student loans towards if I actually like the thing, because I realize what it sounds like you realize is like, I don't want to pay my bills and die. I don't want to just I thought when I got to college, I'm like, all right, I was made to go to school for 18 years. Now I finally get to do something that I like. And then sophomore year, I'm like, wait a minute, whose voice is this that I'm listening to? And I realized it wasn't even the voice of my parents. It wasn't even the voice of any one person. It was just this voice of go to school and do the thing that's going to make you the most amount of money.
Isn't that
I'm
crazy?
like, I'm like, why? My life? With my life? This, whatever this is, this precious thing, I'm going to just do something based on a voice that I don't even know whose voice it is. And so I didn't ask my mom and dad. I didn't have a girlfriend at the time, so I couldn't ask her. I just said acting, play for the sake of play. And philosophy, the way that my professor put it, he said the only reason someone would study philosophy is if they want to live a happy life. Sign me up. Like Mike drop with Plato's Republic right there. And from that moment forward, it's just been unspeakable. And I'm on the
Nice.
journey. I'm very much so in that hero's journey of I think I'm at the point where I'm going into the belly of the beast right now, and I'm like I gotta go in there because
Mm.
I'm still on the way, and there's more, and I'm discovering it. I'm just like, all right, if I give all of my life force energy to what I care most about, uh, I think there'll be a pretty good result. So yeah, I can really relate.
Yeah. Well, at least you'll feel good in the process, right?
I'll enjoy the thing that I'm doing
You'll
while I'm
enjoy
doing
it.
the thing that I'm doing instead of doing the thing that is for some future, but I don't even want that future because it's the way to get there seems to be just more of the shit. Why do I think that I'm going to get somewhere where I enjoy and like if the thing that I'm doing to get there is not things that I enjoy and like?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that generally speaking, we look at of the most people play a finite game, right? It's this I'm gonna sacrifice all this, I'm gonna do all this, and then I'm gonna get that, right? I'm gonna get there, I'm gonna feel like this, and that's a finite game. And the way
Yeah.
that I like to look at the big picture is whatever that is every day doing just a little bit to build that consistency in whatever it is that's going to bring me to a place of more presence, more joy, feeling better in my body, in my mind, in my heart, and
Hmm.
feeling more joy, doing things that bring more pleasure in my life and well-being in my life and the life of others. Just doing just a little bit every day. Um, and then when I look back and I'm like, wow, if I've been doing that for the past 20 years, that's 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 pretty good track. You know, that's a pretty
Hmm.
good record. That's a pretty good data there. Every day there's a moment of every day that's been good, right? And that's how I want to die. I want to look forward that way. It's like, cool. I
Okay.
did, that's how I want to die. My father-in-law just passed away a week ago, and
Mm.
I remember the invitations of like, hey, come visit. Hey, come see your grandson. Hey, can we go visit? And all the moments that were lost because at that moment there were other things that were important. Nothing wrong with that. But what that leads me to is how much am I missing out on right now, right? That I'm not prioritizing, that I deem to be not important. What am I prioritizing right now? And then, you know, nothing is guaranteed. And for what, right? Uh, For what? Like in that the sense of rebellion, I think, rolls over onto the next part of how I'm living my life, right? If a
Hmm.
trip comes up, for me, family comes first. So if something comes up that's family related, it's like that's a priority to me, whether it's
Hmm.
family directly or indirectly. So that's where the greatest joy for me is. Uh, and it's like, how do I prioritize everything that's going to support that every day? Every
Hmm.
day. So if I reframe success for me, it's I'm successful every fucking day.
Hmm.
And that feels good to me. And when people are, if anyone was to ask me, well, what do you have to show for it? I'm like, fuck you, mind your own fucking business and nothing. There's
Hmm.
nothing to show for it. And that's personal, right? And it's like, that to me is success, feels good.
I wasn't necessarily tracking what you were saying about are you saying that you're going to go visit with family or what? I wasn't necessarily tracking what you were saying about that the passing of your father-in-law.
Yeah, the missed opportunities, thinking that we have time, making that connection, right? How many times did he not make himself available to see his grandchildren, his grandchild, because there were other things that were more important, and how we just lost that time is gone.
Oh, like from his perspective. Yeah, okay.
Right,
Okay.
right,
Hmm.
right.
Hmm.
And it was like, yeah,
Yeah.
I want to
Oh.
see, you guys, but something else is more important. And like I said, there's nothing
Hmm.
wrong with that. What that led me to is asking myself the question, like, what am I prioritizing? What am I missing out on? Right? That is
Hmm.
more important, right? Where
Yeah,
am I putting my
I see.
energy? Right.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. The thing that stood out to me most about our session, I had a session with Pablo, uh, a discovery session with some things that are going on in my life about a week ago, I think something like that. And the thing that landed most above all, you said something like, it's about you and how you feel about your commitment or your whatever it is that I'm doing. And that out of all the things, like something has really landed. And I mean, there are other things that have occurred in the past week that have like shifted me. I'm not who I was when I spoke to you a week ago. There's something else operating from a deeper place. And it has a lot to do with me checking in and being like, okay, yeah, this feels good for me.
Hmm.
And operating from that place instead of some expectation or this voice. I think it goes right back to that voice of, hey, you got to do the thing that's going to make you the most amount of money. So, yeah, I just wanted to bring up that has landed in a really deep way for me. So, thank you.
Right on. Thank you. Thank you.
Would you say, Pablo, that that's what is the hard question to ask, big question with the different people that you have been with and worked with? What is the number one, like if you had this boil it down to essentially this is what people want slash need and that you really dial in and work with people on.
Yeah. It's the just the knowing yourself, right? People want to, no, that's bullshit. Fuck that. People don't want to suffer. People don't want to
Okay.
suffer. People don't want to feel pain,
Hmm.
period. So most people go around the pain in circles, right? Around it, avoiding it, distracting, numbing out, inevitably suffering and being in pain to avoid pain. That's the thing. So
Yeah, it's the
that's where
definition of suffering right there.
that's where the selling out begins. So it's like, it's like the thing, you ask yourself the question, why am I going to go to school, study this thing if what's the point of that? And it's like, you get to that, you confronted the pain. And that's where the magic begins. And people call it shadow work or resilience, mental toughness, whatever. It's just a part of life. It's confronting the friction, the chaos, to start living in some kind of order. In order to clean the kitchen, you got to face the dirt to enjoy a clean kitchen. I mean, easy,
Did that last
basic,
night.
right?
Yeah.
So that's the work that I do with people. It's like, okay, you don't want
Hmm.
to look at that? Well, what we're going to do, and I'm going to support you, is look at that, because
Hmm.
that's the thing that's been there. And it's, fight, freeze, flight triggers all the nervous system of just,
Yeah.
I'm stuck. And the end result of all that, it's in our discovery call. I'm feeling stuck. I don't know how to move forward from this. Okay, great. Let's look at that. Let's look at that boulder. Let's look at that mountain you created, that thing that is in the way, right? And that's ultimately it. People don't want to suffer. And that's where the work is. As much as we don't want to do it, as much as it is uncomfortable, it's like that's where it's at. You got to deal with that. It's gonna suck.
And dude, so two points on that. The first point is I'm realizing now as a result of squarely looking at that, which I did, and I have been looking at that you and I very directly, I was sitting right here, went into that on our call last week. Something really interesting shifted where, as a result of being with that pain and suffering, something shifted where I'm now putting all most of my energy into my gift and into service and into like it's the weirdest thing. It's like, okay, I'm looking at this mountain of pain and suffering, and then the solution, it's not like I said, well, I'm just gonna keep banging my head up against this wall. I looked around at all the 9 billion fucking different places where I can actually contribute and be of service. And it's like looking at it and then going off and doing all the things that are the most fulfilling for my heart. And that's actually the solution. So the solution wasn't like trying to, I think of that Einstein quote, right? You cannot solve a problem on the same level that it was created.
Right.
So it's like an interesting paradox in a way where being with the pain somehow encouraged me to take that suit off.
Right. Right.
But
Yeah.
that's not me.
Yeah.
And one more thing, bro, I want to point out, you said it was
Hmm.
bullshit. And when you said know yourself, the way I understand knowing myself is actually everything that you just described. Is because if I'm knowing myself, not intellectually, but from the gnosis, like embodied experiential, then absolutely I'm going to face up to that mountain of pain and suffering and then be in my heart of joy and celebration. So I don't know how much bullshit that is. I know you said it was bullshit, but I don't think it's bullshit. You supported me in getting me closer to knowing myself, and cheers to
Yeah.
that.
And cheers, bro. Yeah, yeah. You have experience in the work that you do as a coach. You have training, you have skill, talent there. So it's easier to arrive there because there's a system of feeling, right? And
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
a lot of people don't have that because it's a
Right,
muscle.
right, right, right. Yeah, yeah,
We're
yeah.
we are blessed that this is what we do for life, for ourselves. This is our practice, this is our day to day. We are learning how to ask ourselves, how to question the world, learning how to discern, and it's at a moment by moment by moment by moment basis. For someone listening to this, being at work on their 9 to 5, marketing, graphic design, or whatever it is that they do,
There's
operating
only
on a
enlightened beings that hear this podcast. Only enlightened
on
beings that hear this
oh,
podcast.
great. Now I'm in the wrong podcast then. Right.
No,
So, you know,
good.
it's you know, it's interesting because we can take it for granted. Um, and truly for some people, we didn't, like, you nailed the solution. I pointed at, the problem of what most people, what's that question? And it's at that avoiding the pain. Let's look at the pain. And you pointed at the solution, and what a gift that you can look at, feel through solutions, right? But a lot of people may just get stuck with the problem, and that's where depression happens, right? It's like, well,
Yeah, bro.
how do I get out of this? Not a lot of people can can manage that because the tools are not there, because support system is not there, because maybe the environment is not Costa Rica, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, well, it's like, I'm curious about that person, right? The alcoholic, the realtor that works 20 hours, hasn't sold and is miserable, numbing out with alcohol and has a part-time gig and 3, 4 mouths to feed. It's like, well, where's the space to look at the problem there? Where's the space to discover a solution there? Right? Where's the space to even process?
Mm-hmm.
It's like how many hours
Yeah.
I look at my 24-hour day and I'm like, I haven't even worked 1 hour today. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Some days are like that. And it's like, talk about a 2, 3 hour week of work. And it's like, wow, I haven't worked. Right. I haven't
Mm-hmm.
been occupied with redundancy other than training or moving my body or some form
Mm-hmm.
of, practice or whatever, cleaning the toilet, etc. But how many people don't have that luxury, to ponder who am I?
Yeah, bro. And what I'm hearing you say is, or what I'm interpreting you saying rather is knowing yourself. That might be good at some point, at some times, but there are practical steps and other kind of tools and ways of getting to a point where you can then have the space to know yourself or ask, who am I? What am I? Something like that, because that might not be what, like you said, someone that does feel stuck listening to this. If there is someone that does feel stuck listening to this, then what do you do with know yourself? It's like, yeah, and how is that gonna feed my children and get me out of drinking 4 nights a week because I'm depressed and stuck? So
Right.
I feel you on that. Yeah. Mm. I recently listened to, well, I'll just cut to the punchline of it. It was basically saying that all of the world's problems are a result of individuals. Like, I'll use the example that was given: Nazi Germany, the Nuremberg trials. They were like, I didn't have a choice. Boss's orders. I didn't think what I was doing was good, but I had to do it. And so there's something that I'm looking at exploring right now with you, that choice, having the choice, being able to slow down enough to recognize, okay, I actually do have a choice in whatever that next decision is that I'm going to make. I'm not forced to do it, because that has created a lot of catastrophe in our world. But I also think personally on an individual level as well, when we're doing something because it's like, well, I have to do it. I have to do it. Because then that justifies, can justify a lot of suffering. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is there a question or
Uh,
we're like diving into choice?
yeah. I guess the question would be inside that, do you find that to be an important space to come to with those that you work with and for yourself? Recognizing, like, getting out of the way enough to be like, actually, you do have a choice here.
Mm-hmm. I think it's depending on the level of practice, right? What I mean by practice is the level of. So, for example, working with alcoholic, drug addicts, teenagers, sometimes there is no choice other than keep in mind to be very clear of what the destructive pattern is, right? So there isn't the luxury of having a choice sometimes, and I find that to be healthy.
Can you
Um,
say more about that? Can you say more about that,
yeah,
like it with
yeah,
that example?
right. So when I um when I lived in Miami, I used to work at a drug and rehab center, and
Hmm.
they would introduce themselves like, "Hey, my name is Chris, whatever, Johnny, and I'm an alcoholic, or I'm addicted to, you know, oxycodone." And um, whatever, whenever that was, 15 years ago, I was fresh in the yoga space. And it's like, well, why are you identifying as an alcoholic? You're affirming, you're affirming to yourself with your name that that's what you are, and that's what you're gonna be. So I was coming from a very, good
Mm.
intentions of,
Hmm. Hmm.
if you're gonna affirm, let's use something else. And I was put in check. I was put in check with this kid that was, itching from withdrawals. And he's like, if I don't remind myself that I have a drug addiction, I'm gonna
Hmm.
go do
Hmm.
I'm gonna I'm and I think that I'm clean or I think I'm good, I'm gonna go do drugs. So, and I was like, oh shit, how
Mm.
ignorant of me to go in there and try to impose a way of thinking when I don't know nothing about that,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So I think that there are layers. So when it comes to choice, that person needs to have that choice to remember that he or she is an alcoholic, so they
Hmm.
know not to step,
Yeah.
they cannot step in the bar, period.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's what's going to get them through recovery.
Hmm. Hmm.
So there's that level. Then there's the whole other extreme about will and karma and spirit, that sometimes choices have been maybe already written for us by us, right?
Hmm.
We've already made agreements. So we're just working backwards, making choices to live up to those agreements that have already
Yeah.
been made at a soul level. So that's philosophy and poetry and spiritual entertainment. So there's both spectrums of it, right? Both
Right. Right. Right.
and
Right. Yeah.
very
Yeah.
far ends of it. And then where I land is the choiceless clarity. I want to live in a space where I
Hmm.
don't I don't have choices, right? And this philosophy comes from Krishnamurti, right?
Choiceless
Choiceless clarity.
awareness. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
right, choiceless awareness is like when I met my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time.
Hmm.
I don't even think I don't even think we ever dated actually. We never really dated. We just met
It
and
just,
it's like here we go.
well, yeah.
Just here we go. And it was that choiceless clarity that within a week
Recognition.
or two we were
Yeah.
having the conversation like, hey, I don't date. I want to get to know you, and we're gonna fuck up. We're gonna become so intimate that we're gonna know each other's flaws, and the
Hmm.
work is gonna begin. So let's start there right now in getting to know each other, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And what are your flaws? What are my flaws? What are your thresholds? When do you throw the towel? What are you excited about? What are your non-negotiables, right? Um, so so when I arrived there with her, we arrived there with each other. It's like, you know what? I choose you, period. There are no other options.
Hmm.
There's nothing else to choose from. So
Hmm.
immediately, if there is no choice, if the only choice is water, I'm not going to think Coca-Cola.
Hmm.
That's why
Hmm.
in my house, there's only water or sparkling water. That's it. You get water with bubbles, flat water, period.
Hmm.
So choiceless, that's clear to me. That's clear,
Hmm.
even in the choice of beverage. So to me, that's gold. I think
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
to people that want to avoid further pain, we put myself in it, we give ourselves choices so that we can tug a war and sort of be in this dramatic relationship with all these choices. But when we narrow it down, and it's like I tell my son, You know what? He's 3.5. Kai, you know what that is between your legs? He's like, yeah, that's a penis. Okay, that makes you a boy. You're a male. Period. So the end. There's no question about it at the moment. He's three and a
Right,
half.
right, right.
There is no
Yeah.
conversation. There are no other. There is no other. There are not two penises. There's one,
Hmm.
right? Period.
You're not
So,
two boys, you're one boy.
right. So now we're having a girl. She has a vulva, and he understand that vagina vulva is a girl, female.
Hmm. Hmm.
Easy for me, for us, for our lifestyle, our life philosophy, our values. That's our reality, and this is a reality that we are creating.
Hmm.
Right, wrong, whatever. I don't care. Feels
Hmm.
good.
Hmm.
That's where we land. So when it comes to choice, it's well, that then there goes commitment, and then there goes discipline, and then there goes habits. And then it's like, well, how do you want to be? How do you want to live your life? How do you want to feel your life? Narrow
Hmm.
down to choices, narrow down to choices with food, narrow down to choices with friends.
So what's really cool about what you're saying is I'm connecting the dots between choiceless awareness with your wife and the general understanding that I have of choiceless awareness with my wife to be in the background. uh, and also the person that is dealing with an addiction recognizing that if I don't give myself a choice, that is the best choice. Like if I so I actually see a parallel of how those two are, although maybe different ends of the spectrum, serving the same function, right? Which
Right.
is uh, alcohol ain't for me because get that bubbly water with the 4%. That's not my choice. So I can actually I'm seeing the a parallel between these two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's why I think it comes with, again, it's layers and levels of understanding, and it's understanding oneself through mistakes, through constant seeing the mistakes, right? I was, been an entrepreneur for so many years, and at the beginning of this year, decided to take a consulting gig into a full-time gig, and I I I I didn't narrow the choices. I kept it very broad, conveniently, right? To
Hmm.
avoid
Hmm.
pain. Nice salary, relocation, the whole nine. It looked good on paper, right? And
Hmm.
then when it's like when I really aligned to it, when I was present with it and I'm there doing the work, looking behind the curtain, poking at the bear, it's like, oh, this is not what I wanted. I gave
Hmm.
myself that choice. I created that to be a possibility. And then it became an opportunity, right? Choice,
Hmm.
possibility, opportunity. I created the whole thing for myself. And it's like, well, what if I wouldn't have had that as a choice? What if that I wouldn't have allowed that to be a possibility so that I wouldn't create that to be, right, an option?
Hmm.
It's like, and it's like, what then the question becomes for all of us is like, what options do we have in life? When we look at an option, it's almost like looking at the last searches on your Google or your Instagram. What are the last 10 things you searched for? And those are the options that you have in life to live that way. If you look at your YouTube,
Ooh, that's a reality
those are
check right there, probably
that's
for some of us.
exactly. So if there's porn, if there's, how to get rich in 5 seconds,
Hmm. Hmm.
whatever, that those are your options. Those are possibilities that we've created to have as choices. So the
Hmm.
algorithms are gonna that the beauty of this disgusting system is that there are robots working so that you can be like, oh, here, these are your choices in life. You can have all of this and more of it. And it's like, I love algorithms because they tell me who I am and who I was 10 days ago, a year
Mm-hmm.
from now. So now it's like I look at my Instagram like, oh, I must really like watches. I must really like
Watching them
restoring,
watches.
right? I love
Yeah, yeah.
watches. It's like, oh wow, I like workouts. You know,
Uh-huh.
I like kettlebells and primal movement.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, I must like comedy. I must like, you know, all of
Uh-huh.
these, you know, stoicism. And it's like, okay,
Uh,
well, what is the quality of my what are the quality of my choices that I'm creating for myself? It's like, okay,
mm-hmm.
cool. Well, that's a glimpse of reality. I gave a reference to social media and the virtual world, but this is a glimpse of reality,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at our life, we take a step almost like the observer and see, okay, what are my choices here of what I do on the weekends, or what I do with my for work, what I do with career, what I do for fun, what I do with my faith, what I do with my beliefs, what I do with my family, with my friends. And it's like, these are the choices that I've been maintaining. And it's like, well, good. Is this good or bad for you? Period. Is this good or bad for humanity? And if it's not that great, then, well, time to change something, create new choices, to have new possibilities, to then choose new possibilities.
Time to get a new watch.
Time to get a new watch. Yep.
Mm, yeah, beautiful, brother. Is there anything else on your heart that's coming through that you feel would be beautiful to share?
This pottery studio.
Yeah, Finca Brinca.
Yeah. The
Hey,
office.
sounds like what you're saying is we got to get more mirrors over in Suda, is what I'm hearing.
More mirrors. Yeah.
More mirrors, yeah, yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this feels like to me maybe a good time to wrap. How do you feel about that?
Let's wrap. Feels good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for joining on today's episode of Unspeakable Bliss. Appreciate your listening. Pablo, appreciate you coming on. You're always welcome. And uh, until next time,
Thank you, bro. Appreciate the invitation, bro. Thank you.
thank you, brother. Bless
Peace,
you.
bro.
Take care.